So in the last video, I know I made a video about talking about two films at the same time. But I wanted to give this film its own video because I think that out of all of them, this is probably going to have the hardest time getting an audience. Not because of the subject matter, but just because it hasn't gotten the level of promotion it deserves. Or I think the word of mouth. And I tried watching it again, and after 3 weeks, I couldn't find a movie showing. So it really did get pushed out of the theater like it wasn't shit. Like, just, you ain't shit. Which is really depressing because I think that this film deserves all the attention in the world. It's called Boy Kills World with none other than Bill Skarsgård as the titular character Boy. And it's a very, very simple premise about a... This is kind of like a sort of, a surreal fictional city where there is a family that kind of rules everything, and it's a very poor place, a very poor city, and these very rich, wealthy people are kind of like the totalitarian hierarchy that rules over this town and keeps it poor while they're filthy rich. Anyway, simple premise, Boy's main character's family gets murdered by these people because of a game, which basically is like the Hunger Games. They grab a bunch of people and they throw them into a game and make them kill each other. And the game is sponsored by cereal companies, like milk and cereal. It's pretty fucking crazy. It's insane. But I think that, and then of course, like Boy, when he gets older, he trains to go after these people that are responsible for the death of his family. And the whole film is just one giant fucking action madness sequence that just, from beginning to end, does not stop. But that's not what makes the movie special. What makes the movie special is that it's so fucking unhinged. Absolutely unhinged. It is a movie about the main character, Bill Skarsgård's character, Boy, is mute. He does not speak. So he creates a voice in his head that is a very Archer inspired voice, a very cartoony 80s hero voice that he got from a video game he played as a kid because he doesn't know the sound of his own voice. And that's the voice in his head. And it's hilarious because I know that the guy that did the voice is actually a well-known voice actor in very popular shows, including Archer. So he is just so funny. And I think that his voiceover in hilarious situations where you hear his narration and what he's thinking, and then also the face of Bill Skarsgård reacting as he's narrating with this other voice. There's such synchronicity and such perfection in just like every scene where he's silently reacting. And you think a silent protagonist wouldn't work, but they've done it before, and you're right, it has failed many times. This is the one time it genuinely has not failed. I think the few times it has succeeded is like Max Fury Road, right? Where Tom Hardy's Mad Max doesn't say a word. As far as I remember, he maybe has a couple lines. I don't remember. It's been a while. I love that film, but I don't remember if he says at least like a line or two. But for the most part, that's a pretty silent character. So this was such a unique take in that, like, how do we tell a story with a mute character but do it in a new way? I know. Give him a voice that isn't his, inspired by video games and like 80s action heroes. And I was like, this is great. And at that moment, the film is not taking itself seriously at all. I mean, come on, the Hunger Games thing that they got going on is sponsored by cereal box companies. It's pretty fucking wild. The film deserves to be seen. It is a style over substance film, absolutely, but it's not hiding that. It is a film you watch to have fun. And it's a fun that bathes in the blood and the humor and the gore and the violence and the craziness of it all. It's unhinged. It's disrespectful in the best ways. It's just crazy. And it reminded me of when we had the old Crank movies with Jason Statham or Shoot 'Em Up with what was it, Clive Owen? No. What's his name? Clive Owen. Fucking hell. What's his name? I'm looking at my movie boxes because I know his name. I know his name. I know I'm getting it right. I know that I have. Anyway, regardless, I think it's Clive Owen. No. I haven't seen him in something in such a long time, but he's obviously a great actor. He's in, Gemini Man. He's in Children of Men. He's in The International. Like, he's big actor, but I just haven't seen him in a while, so his name, now I'm like confusing it. Anyway, the point is, it's a fantastic movie that is unhinged in all the right ways. I will say that this film, when it comes to action sequences and fight sequences, every action sequence ups itself in ways that you just couldn't imagine. Like, how are you going to top this? And they fucking say, hold my gun, hold my shells, hold my shot. I'm going to go. I'm gonna up it, and they do it, and it's insane. It's fucking wild. This film has a lot of the Raid DNA in it. There's actually the actor who played Mad Dog in the Raid in the first one, who also showed up as like a twin in the sequel of the Raid, is in this as the shaman who trains Boy. And there is, I don't want to, fuck it, who cares? There's a huge fight sequence in the end when it's revealed that he's one of the biggest villains in the film who set everything up. And there is a fight sequence that is literally, I don't know how, I couldn't imagine they did this for any other reason than like, hey, you were in the Raid, you had a huge climactic sequence with the two protagonists from the Raid 1 where they tried to kill you and it took like 20 minutes. Let's do that again. And so they pick the boy and his sister, who is a huge character in this movie. They come together and fight him. And it is maddening. It's insane. Like, there's the climactic sequence of just them fighting, who is essentially Mad Dog 2.0 again, is kind of insane. And I love when they do like insane, 2v1 fight sequences where there's like that one villain who's so insanely invincible and so agile and so badass that taking two people on is like nothing, and it builds to this climax where both of them really have to really team up to take him down the same way they did. And I love fight sequences like that where they're like highlighting the villain as being so good at fighting that it takes two, and not just two, but it takes them being super tired and working off of each other to truly bring down the villain. And I love scenes like that. So this one had a phenomenal climax. And it's very video gamey in that it is about like, here's one boss after another, and it just builds up, and there's a sense of escalation that I absolutely love in films like this, where it's like, if you're going to go action and you're kind of disregarding everything else and it's merely style over substance, well then go in as batshit crazy and wild as you can for that hour and 40 minutes that I'm giving you. And this film absolutely breezes by with the amount of action and when in between sequences, the humor and the comedy and the well-written dialogue and the interesting characters and the character moments amongst like the villains and the hierarchy. The film explodes off the screen. It is nutworthy. Just semen all over your face. It is fantastic. And again, it does give... It's a film that you could easily... And now everyone wants to compare everything to John Wick or The Raid. And sure, they're pretty much the ones that ushered like single shot action sequences and really kind of up the envelope in action. I don't think that The Raid, John Wick would exist without The Raid. I don't think that most of the big action films like Extraction wouldn't exist without John Wick. So but this film is so much its own thing that all you can say is that, yeah, it has the one-shot action sequence, but that's about it. There's a brutality and a humor incorporated in the action sequences that you don't see in the other films, because it's very much trying to identify as its own thing, its own madness. And it does it. It has its own personality. It has its own characteristic, while still paying ode to all these great action films that kind of set the stage. But it really does create its own pace, its own ingenuity, its own look, its own feel, its own characteristics, its own personality. It's just so full of fucking personality, and it's definitely a highlight of the year for me as well. There's been quite a couple films, but I think this one and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and Late Night with the Devil, these are films that have left impressions on me just because they do what they do so well. But this and Late Night with the Devil, these films that came out of nowhere and just hit, is kind of like, I'm so happy we have them. We have the horror, Late Night with the Devil, now we have the action, and it's really, really great. I highly recommend that you watch this however you can. Buy it, rent it, find it, watch it. This is definitely one I'm buying on Blu-ray because I want to have this next to like my Raid and all my South Korean martial arts films and all my John Wicks. I don't want to have it. I need it. And that's it. Yeah, this is a short one because it's a simple movie. There's not much to say, but I just want to create some post-theatrical buzz so that when it comes out on Blu-ray or digital or you can rent it, people do. So that's it. Don't know what my next film's going to be. Oh, Strangers Chapter 1 comes out next weekend, so if it's good enough, I'll probably review it. I don't really feel like doing reviews on movies I don't care about. It's like I don't want to sit here and just trash movies unless they're absolutely horrible, like Immaculate. Oh, that reminds me, I watched Tarot. You know what? I take it back. I'm going to shit all over Tarot in the next video. Fuck that movie.